Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following all the news on the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. I'm Damon Hatfield, and today I'm joined by Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast. Podcast Unlocked.
We did it. E3's over.
We survived another E3, a very interesting E3. And joining us from Podcast Beyond today, and I believe making her first appearance on Next Gen Console Watch, is Lucy O'Brien. Lucy, welcome to the show.
Hello. It is not actually my first appearance, but it was about a year ago since I was last on. So it is a pleasure to be back.
I stand corrected. This is the first episode coming out of E3 2021, where Xbox had a showcase that I think everyone was pretty happy with. Of course, Sony sat out another E3, and whether or not that was the right call for them is a discussion worth happening. I think that was a topic on Podcast Beyond this week. But I wanted to begin today with some very interesting news from Camp Xbox that wasn't part of its E3 showcase. Xbox kind of quietly snuck it out a couple days after E3, and it's about how Xbox plans to handle cross-generational games going forward. Ryan, can you explain the whole system?
Yeah, I'm surprised they buried this in an Xbox Wire post because I think this is pretty significant. I mean, it doesn't fly in the face of anything they've said before, but take a listen to this. So the short version is that for next gen only games that just need that 12 teraflop GPU in there, things like, in fact, the first one's going to be Microsoft Flight Simulator, which is out this July 29th. They're going to be implementing streaming, the xCloud streaming, straight into the console. So they issued a quote saying, for the millions of people who play on Xbox One consoles today, we are looking forward to sharing more about how we will bring many of these next-gen games, such as Microsoft Flight Simulator, to your console through Xbox Cloud Gaming, just like we do with mobile devices, tablets, and browsers. Now, I realize that may seem obvious, like, well, sure, if they can stream it to your tablet, they can stream it to your console, but I just find that to be kind of an interesting final piece of the puzzle to say, hey, for those of you who can't join us on next-gen just yet, here's a way that you still kind of can in obviously you're probably going to need the Game Pass Ultimate subscription to have access to that streaming, but so another way to get get you into Microsoft's subscription ecosystem. But I think a really clever way to do this, and especially in light of all of the console shortages that we're seeing, people might want to get it and can't.
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk lately about cross-generational games over both PS4, PS5, and Xbox One Series X. And the two platforms seem to have just done a complete 180 with one another, where Microsoft said that for the foreseeable future, their games would be playable across both generations. And then Sony was saying, we believe in generational shifts. We're going to be making games for PS5. But it seems that both companies now, Sony has said that Horizon Zero or Forbidden West, the next God of War, and I believe Gran Turismo 7 are all going to be cross-generational games. And Microsoft, instead of developing games to run on both platforms, they come up with this seemingly elegant solution. Ryan, it seems like the best way to handle this, right? Instead of needing the Xbox One to be able to process these new games that are coming out, let a server handle that elsewhere and just stream it to your console. That way they don't have to make any concessions when making next generation games. Is that right?
That's exactly correct. I mean, and it's Microsoft is now, they've announced this past week that they're upgrading all of the server blades in the cloud that power all this stuff to Xbox Series X's. They had been Xbox Ones. So you're going to have Series X's in the cloud powering a cloud experience through the Microsoft Azure cloud system, which is just something that Microsoft has been doing the legwork on for years. They've been building this for a long time. This is kind of one of those advantages of Microsoft being a technology company with a $1 trillion market cap. They've been investing in this stuff for a while, and I just think this is a really great way to do it. Now, granted, the best way to play is still going to be on a local Xbox Series X console.
Sure,
but that's a $500 investment. That's it's a not an insignificant thing, and again, given the supply shortages that we're still in the middle of as well. So I just think this is a really great way to do it. I mean, it lets developers go nuts. I mean, Starfield is next gen exclusive. We mentioned Microsoft Flight Simulator being the first one, and there's a lot of the games that we saw that we're going to talk about today that are leaving the Xbox One behind, but through Microsoft Cloud Gaming, they're actually not leaving the Xbox One behind. I just think this is a really smart, elegant consumer-friendly solution to this.
Now, Lucy, what's your take on all this? First of all, did you have any reservations when you heard that Horizon Forbidden West and God of War are going to be cross-generational games, both PS4 and PS5? And do you wish that Sony had some sort of a solution like Microsoft has for all this?
I mean, I think the short answer is no. I'm not concerned that, they're going to be cross-generational games. There is a part of me that sort of selfishly wishes there was more focus on the PS5 as a next generation, right? But at the same time, I completely understand it from a business standpoint. I mean, the PlayStation 4 has such a large user base. It's still very, very difficult to get a PS5. There are plenty of reasons why a PS4 version of these games is a really smart consumer forward thing to do. So, there are certainly sort of slight concerns of shaved edges, I suppose. But, from what we've seen from Horizon Forbidden West so far, of course, we've seen nothing from Ragnarok. It looks stunning. So I'm not really overly concerned about that. I do think that Xbox is just making all the right moves right now in terms of making its games accessible to pretty much everyone. And absolutely removing all barriers of entry, really. And, I would love to see PlayStation branch out a little bit. I mean, it's going to become increasingly more difficult for PlayStation to justify spending $70 on a game that you can get not for free. I mean, that's not the word that we use, but that you can get without paying anything at launch, right? It's, I think moves need to be made because otherwise, I worry that PlayStation is only going to be relying on its sort of first-party exclusives, and I worry that that's not enough, especially after the E3 just showed that Game Pass is making the Xbox kind of an unmissable machine right now, or infrastructure, right?
Of course, Sony could, announce their own dedicated State of Play event at any moment, but Lucy, would you have preferred Sony to participate in E3?
I mean, we did talk about this on Beyond. I think that Xbox had a wonderful E3. I think Nintendo had a wonderful E3. I think the rest of E3 felt a little bit flat and unnecessary. And, I don't think at this point anyone needs to be at E3, despite the fact that Xbox and Nintendo had such great showings. As long as Sony continues to communicate with its fans, as long as there is a State of Play coming up soon, and we're not just sitting there, in radio silence, then no, I don't think it was a disastrous decision not to attend. For me, the key is just communicate to us. It doesn't really matter how you package up that communication, just as long as you're continuing to talk to fans, continuing to tell us that there are things to be looking forward to.
And Ryan, has Xbox giving any indication of what the timeline is for xCloud coming to Xbox One?
Not yet, nothing yet. But if they're, the wording, my interpretation of their wording in their Xbox Wire post seemed to suggest that it may very well be after Flight Simulator has initially shipped. But it sounds like it's not going to be too far away. It's something I imagine we'll see probably by the end of the year. It just as a professional guess here.
It's very exciting prospects. Now, Ryan, you put up an op-ed during E3 about Xbox's exclusive game drought is finally over. And speaking of role reversals, by my count, just adding up the exclusives we know that are forthcoming to both PlayStation and Xbox, by my count, 22 exclusives coming to Xbox right now, 9 of which are next-gen exclusives, so just Xbox Series X, compared to 16 coming to PlayStation, 5 of which are next-gen exclusives. So, I mean, when you just look at just the numbers, how have we ended up with Xbox has more exclusives coming than PlayStation, Ryan?
Well, math, they have more studios. I mean, that's just it. Like, and I know, a lot of people will look at quality versus quantity, and it's up to Microsoft to still prove the quality side of things. I thought this was their best E3 ever, and I don't say that lightly, but still, they've got 20 plus studios now. I mean, not that Sony's slouching in that department. They've got, 11, 12, something like that. So they've got plenty too, but there's just a lot in the Microsoft stable. So it makes sense that there's just going to be a higher volume of stuff. And but yeah, to your point about the game drought being over that I wrote about, I've just been waiting for this forever. I mean, every year it's the Xbox has been the Chicago Cubs of game consoles. Wait till next year. Wait till next year. Wait till next year. Yeah. This is finally going to be our year. Maybe next year. But now it's finally here. I mean, Flight Sim is July. This Sea of Thieves Pirate's Life, which, okay, that's a game that's out already, but this is like a major content add-on with a Pirates of the Caribbean tie-in. That's out this month. That's out in like a week. And then you have The Ascent, which is a cool sort of Judge Dredd Diablo twin stick shooter exclusive that I played that's really fun. That's also July. Psychonauts 2 is August. Sable is September. And then Halo's somewhere in the fall window, and Forza Horizon 5, which won the overall judging, not just IGN, but all media game of the show. So it's finally over. We finally have exclusive games. 12 Minutes, I forgot, that's in there. I'm really looking forward to that. So yeah, it's finally great to say that there are legit cool exclusives actually arriving imminently on the Xbox.
And Lucy, of course, you can add up the number of exclusives each platform has coming, but it doesn't really matter if all 20 of the 22 Xbox exclusives aren't very good, right? So I don't know. Does it surprise you that at least just from what we know right now, Xbox has suddenly seemingly built up their exclusive lineup, and are you hoping that we get some more announcements from Sony soon?
I mean, we've been told that there are a lot of exclusives in the works. We don't know everything. I do want to just say I'm very pleased for you, Ryan. I have worked with you for so many years now, and I am very happy that the drought is over, because I've seen your suffering and now I'm seeing your celebration. I'm not worried about Sony's exclusive stable. I think, for me personally, Sony has always had the first party exclusives that float my boat, the story driven action adventure bread and butter, so to speak. We've got Horizon Forbidden West, the sequel to one of the most impressive games of the last generation. God of War Ragnarok, ditto, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, we don't know what Naughty Dog is up to, but they're always producing wonderful work. We've got Insomniac. There's a lot in the Sony stable that keeps me confident and comfortable. And there are a couple of surprises as well. Like we've got, Final Fantasy 16 is a PlayStation exclusive. So there are other sort of third-party exclusives in that bank. And, it's something that Sony is obviously going after. But, that's not to deny that Microsoft has made the moves. I mean, the Bethesda acquisition was huge. Arcane is one of my favorite developers in the whole wide world. So, I can't deny the quality that we're going to be seeing on Xbox. And it's about time. It's about time, and good on them.
Yeah, so coming out of E3, I think Xbox is in a really good spot. I hope we hear from PlayStation soon, a counterattack, if you will, because I think it's good for both of these companies to challenge each other. Who knows what position Xbox would be in today if they hadn't completely bungled the announcement and launch of the Xbox One years ago. Before we go, we have the results of last week's poll. We were focusing on Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and we asked you, which franchises would you like to see return to the PlayStation 5 next? The winner was Infamous, and I have to agree with that. That was Infamous Second Son was the last entry in that series. Way down at the bottom, though, was Ape Escape, but I'm very sad to see that. No justice for Ape Escape. I loved that game. Poll for you for next week. Which next-gen E3 or summer event reveal has you most excited? Breath of the Wild 2, Elden Ring, Starfield. Make sure to vote at IGN.com, and we will share the results with you next week. And that's going to do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch. Thank you to both Ryan. Thank you to Lucy for hanging out with us today. We will return next week, same time, same place, 9 a.m. Eastern, 6 a.m. Pacific, with more PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X news. We'll see you then.